Okay, so maybe we should go ahead and get started just to make sure that we can catch up on time. So hello everyone, my name is Mohamed Abuagla. I am a board member of Shumul, which is the Sudanese Fintech Association. I'm joined by my colleague Manal Yassin, who will be leading the initial part of the presentation, and then I'll come back and follow up with some slides just to talk about some of the difficulties in technology transformation and adoption. So without much introduction, Manal, it's off to you.
Thanks, Mohammed. Hi, everyone. It is a pleasure joining Arab Blockchain Week. And I would like to start by a brief introduction about Shumul, the Sudan Fintech Association. It is a community initiative to support financial inclusion in Sudan through the Fintech arm. Mohammed, please, can we go to the next slide?
I gave you the control, so you can do it.
Sure, thank you. So Shumul is a center for excellence in Fintech through leadership, collaboration, sandboxing, education, and training that connect all the stakeholders in Sudan and to act like a bridge to connect the local ecosystem with regional and international ecosystem. It seems I don't have it.
There we go.
So regarding Shumul's vision, it is to democratize finance and leave no one in Sudan without access to all the financial instruments available in the country. Access to financial instruments is a genuine right for every citizen in Sudan. That is our vision. Our mission is we endeavor to work with all stakeholders in both public and private sectors to facilitate access to affordable, accessible, easy to understand, and fair financial services to everyone across Sudan in order to achieve our vision. Next slide, please. So, what are Shumul activities in order to achieve its vision? We have a set of focus areas through which we believe that we can support financial inclusion in Sudan. The first pillar is capacity building. We are moving in this pillar into two tracks currently through providing professional certificates and specialized courses in collaboration with a specialized and well-recognized institute in South Africa, Digital Frontiers Institute, which delivers all of its certificates and courses online. They have rich portfolio of certificates and courses. If you are interested to build capacity in the digital money area or fintech in general, you can reach out to us and we can walk you through this portfolio. The other track is through webinars on related and relevant topics to build capacities among the community. The other pillar is thoughtful researches and case studies. The third pillar is policy advocacy. And in the near future, we are looking to cooperate with the central bank in the area of regulatory sandboxing. When we grow a little bit bigger, we are looking to provide mentorship and coaching for startups. A very important pillar for us is women empowerment to support in bridging gender gap in terms of access to financial services and definitely digital divide in general. As I said, Shumul is to act as a bridge between the local, to connect the local ecosystem with regional and international ecosystem. Definitely this is to be done through partnerships with similar and relevant institutions. And that is why we are here today. So I hope this clarifies what is Shumul, its vision, mission, and what it is doing. If you have any question, we'll be happy to take them.
Thank you, Manal. I'll just carry on from here to discuss a little bit of the challenges of transformation in technology, and the focus is going to be around the obviously fintech. So what we were really trying to get to, someone is controlling my machine, so I don't know what's going on.
If you give me access, please.
No, I need to. All right, let me stop it. I got it. So what I wanted to really just go through is just a few questions and a few concepts around transformation. But before we get there, first we have, since this is going to be focused on fintech and basically the new forms of money, we have to ask a question: what is money? Normally, it is, you know, considered just basically a medium. It is, and you can consider it even an API. It's just something that, you know, leads people to agree on a modem or on a mode of exchange, and then they just follow through, and every other party is going to honor their agreement based on that currency or that type of money. Why do we need it? It's because it is the only way to actually conduct trade. That's how we know how we settle financial transactions, and that's basically what people have been going through. But money itself has had its journey, so we can use, you know, different types of money, and we haven't always had money. In the beginning, people had, you know, a bartering system where I will trade my, you know, cattle for crops, or I will trade a property for gains. So that was the system before, all the way in the beginning, you know, of the evolution. After that, people got into gold, where it was basically considered the model that people are going to be conserving their currency or conserving the value of their collection with. We moved to the right. Metal coins was the way that, you know, people basically managed for many years. And we go one step to the right, where we end up with paper money. And that's where most people are right now, especially in the context of growing and emerging economies. It's still paper money. In many areas, and, you know, Middle East and North Africa and other parts of Africa, over the last maybe 15 years or 20 years, you see more and more of the plastic credit cards and plastic cards being the form that's accepted. Again, all these are just, you know, models of, or different examples of how people made an agreement to carry a value that is hosted somewhere else. So after the credit card advent, and that's, you know, where most people are pushing for right now. Obviously, there's also electronic money, and these are all kind of electronic settlement transactions and e-payment solutions and what have you. So something that does not require you to physically be there. And then ultimately, everyone is into cryptocurrency, and that's hopefully the new form of money. And that's where, you know, the evolution of money is going for. But just as we talk about the evolution of money, we have to be thinking along the same lines that there's also another revolution or evolution that is happening at the same time. And people refer to it as the Industrial Revolution. And the Industrial Revolution basically had four major phases. The first one was the mechanical phase, where basically machine production equipment was created, and that allowed for, you know, people to move from manual created equipment to machines that allowed them to do this. When we got into that was mostly around the steam and the steam engines and that period. When we got into the second revolution, it was electric. So when the electricity was created, then people started automating some of these activities that the machines were doing, and then they got into mass production. So that's when people were able to create things in capacity. And the third major revolution is the internet. And that's considered the third industrial revolution. And the internet, since it was created in the 70s, but started spreading in the 90s and in 2000 and on, it changed how the production is happening, because you can pretty much program things around the production line. And that has led to a lot of automation. So humans are no longer, necessarily to be a part of this mass production cycle. And then the fourth and the biggest one to date is the digital revolution. So this is where everyone is talking about digital transformation. But the digital revolution is basically about automating complex tasks. The digital revolution is about empowering people. The other revolutions were mostly about businesses and corporations. And that's where things start becoming interesting. But what exactly, are some of the elements of this digital revolution that we're talking about? So one of the most important things there is obviously cloud computing. So because we have cloud computing, we're able to do things on the cloud in massive scale. We are able to do a lot of joint computing power. So people do not, need necessarily to have access to their own labs and their own equipment. Life has become a whole lot easier over the last 5 or 10 years just because of the advent of cloud computing, and that's basically what powered all of the technologies behind the fourth industrial revolution. Out of that, obviously, people are talking about artificial intelligence technologies, and we can see that AI is penetrating into almost every domain and every topic that we talk about. In every vertical, you will find that AI is prominent there. Same with AI is machine learning. And that is basically to have machines start learning on their own to mimic tasks and be able to come up with complex solutions to problems that are currently overtaking humanity. The interesting piece here is that we always think of machine learning as, engineers, software engineers are writing code, or programmers are writing code so they can make sure that the machines are learning. But what we need to keep in mind is that the next phase of this is that the machines themselves are going to be writing the code. So you actually do not even need the intervention of the software engineers in the middle of this. And then you have different technologies such as mixed reality that basically, allows people to, interact with different parts of technology. So, like this Zoom meeting that we're in right now can be more immersive, and people can actually spend, they can send things back and forth. They almost feel physical, but it's a mixture between physical and virtual reality. So along the same line, you hear a lot about IoTs and sensors and so on and so forth. And those are interesting because the amount of data that is being collected and the automation that will be required and the software that is in place to manage all these different sensors and data feeds is just mind-boggling. It's huge, which takes us into big data, and big data is a whole topic by itself. But all of these things are basically the foundational elements that people talk about when they talk about the fourth industrial revolution. And I will wrap this up with robotics. We can see the progression. They're moving into human-like capabilities. They'll be able to jump and run and react almost as fast as humans. And obviously, at some point, they will be faster because of the optimization that's happening. We can see this in self-driving cars and other examples like that. But most importantly, that this whole fourth industrial revolution is built on trust. So without trust, that the relationship between all these different components, the relationship between the technology elements, the relationship between the software pieces that are enabling and empowering this revolution, nothing will actually work, because you are actually dealing with people that you do not know. You're buying from vendors that you've never met. You're sending money to people that you have no relationship to except for that transaction, and so on and so forth. So therefore, you have to trust. You don't have to trust the people themselves, but you have to at least trust the medium that you're using for transfer. Just like we said before in the beginning, it was different types of money exchanged, and now we have to be thinking about what is the new money going to look like. And trust basically equals security. Everything is going to be running around security and around cybersecurity specifically, because that's where most of these transactions are going to be taking place. One fact that is shared amongst the influencers in tech is that 100% of companies will become software companies. And the reason for that is because everyone will be plugged in into some sort of IoT, into some sort of internet capacity. So no one is going to be off the grid and be able to conduct business. You can call it e-commerce, you can call it e-business, you can call it e-companies, whatever it is, but every single person in the future is going to have some sort of capabilities and software to be able to actually function. So you know, if you have a restaurant, you're going to have software helping you with running that restaurant, maybe for ordering, maybe for obviously for cash, for management, for registry, for, you know, employee stuff. So over time, you're going to see that almost every business is going to have to become a software business. And we can't think that this is far-fetched, because, you know, maybe 100, 200 years ago, people did not think that every business will have, you know, or will need electricity. So we have to keep in mind that when, you know, when something is that massive as far as transformation, as far as change, people will have to attune to it. And because most or all companies are going to have to be, every business is going to have to be a software business, that means all new business is basically running software. That's it. So if you can run software securely, that means you have a business. If you can't run software securely, you will be out of business. And to tie that into fintech is really software-based money. So everything is running through a software. You don't have to necessarily touch money. You don't have gold stashed somewhere. You don't have any sort of paper currency or coins, or any of even physical, credit cards or anything like that. Literally, you're creating a new medium that is 100% software based, and that's what's going to allow people to interact with it. So that's kind of like a quick overview of some of these aspects that lead us to thinking about the transformation that has to happen, specifically in the areas of fintech. There are some global activities that are taking place, such as contactless payment. So you can see that in many countries, those in the Gulf, and obviously most of Europe, in the US as well, parts of Asia, you can see that you have contactless payments where you basically do not have to touch a machine, and that is a form of IoT. So I'm trying to link why the stuff that you see today in your fintech life with the transformation that we talked about as part of the fourth industrial revolution. The personalization and the experience, as we said, in the fourth industrial revolution is about the people. The other three revolutions were about the corporations. So therefore, in this revolution, you're going to have very high level of customizations and experience for people, and that's what we call it, user experience and customer experience, and so on and so forth. You're going to see a lot more, digital payments, online payments. So again, transactions that are software based that people do not physically meet or have any way of exchanging something in the physical world. It's all going to be done, and it's all going to be managed ultimately with artificial intelligence. And again, you can see that every element of what's happening in fintech ties directly into why the fourth industrial revolution is relevant, and that's what we're living through. As far as geography and what's happening, you can see that different parts of the world are behaving differently. So in general, the US is leading in the fintech space. There are a lot of big companies there that have created massive momentum over time. We'll share some of them, and you can see that South America and Asia are almost tied. Australia and Africa and Europe are pretty much all sharing the third place. So you can tell that there's a lot of growth opportunities in different places. The market in North America, and I have experience in working there. pretty tight. You know, you can come up with aggressive ideas, but you know, you're going to have a very heavy battle trying to fight your way into the scene just to make sure that you matter. So you need to be backed by serious investors and have a lot of marketing dollars just to be able to make a dent into that market. And you can tell, you know, when it's about 38 or 40% saturated, it's going to be harder because you're not a name player. In other markets, you know, the 7%, the 6% markets are going to definitely, you know, give you the highest level of return. It's in case of, you know, trying to do market penetration. So we can see that stuff will continue to happen. Some of the products and services that are going to be available for investments and for people to be thinking about and create areas around, robo advising, you know, where people can basically get advice on how to manage their work. Consumer banking, obviously that does not require much of detail. Everybody wants to be able to, you know, to do that with their banks. There are areas where you can see some progress. Some banks are more aggressive than others, but many have a long way to go. Payment gateways, definitely something that is definitely needed. You can see that there are a lot of payment gateway companies and a lot of payment companies that are coming up in different parts of the world. I have invested in a company in Sudan that basically built payment gateways and links them to the international markets just to be able to open up the country for digital payments, mobile payments, peer-to-peer, QR, NFC. You can see the growth in that, and obviously just a lot of business applications that are going around that. As far as the user categories, you have in fintech, you have B2B, basically the banks and the financial institutions. To the right side, you have the clients of those institutions, and then you have the B2C, which are like C but consumers, not, you know, or small businesses. And then you have the direct use by the consumer. So these could be activities that the consumers just basically do, like peer-to-peer payments and transactions. Some of the trends, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can see that crypto and blockchain to the right are major parts of the innovation that is needed and is happening in fintech. So that ties in well into, you know, the relevance to the event for the blockchain week, but also because blockchain is a technology that is needed for financial transactions just because of the amount of fraud that happens in there and the amount of certainty that people need. Because like I said, we need trust, and blockchain is one of those technologies that heavily enables trust in transactions because of the distributed nature of transaction management. These are some of the industry segments. Basically, you can look at them from 4 different aspects: services, technology, geography, and service providers. And then within each one, there are different types of activities that happen. So in the services, you'll have payment services, wealth management services, insurance. On the service providers, you will have payment processes, you have brokerage and investments, you have banks, non-banking institutions. Geography, obviously, just, you know, different parts of the world. And then you can tell the technologies, you know, things like artificial intelligence and blockchain and data and ledgers and what have you are going to be definitely all part and relevant in this revolution. The industry overall is going through massive growth. There's going to continue to be growth. Most of the investments, actually, it's so interesting that in 2019 and 2020 and now going into 21, most of the investments, like the top dollars, go to fintech companies, and VCs seem that they look like they want to invest more in fintech than anything else. And you can understand why, because there are, you know, billions and billions of dollars associated with this industry. And, you know, the more that they can put into it to automate it, the easier it makes life for everyone, and the larger the profit margins for them. And that is evident by some of these names on this slide. PayPal, huge company. I think it operates in almost 200 countries. Investec or Investnet is a huge organization that owns a lot of subsidiaries and financial services, you know, based out of China. Tencent Holding, based out of China. Square, everybody knows about it. So you can tell by these big names and the key players in the industry that there's a lot of money that is being poured in. And even those guys are investing into other fintech partners and ecosystem partners that they can work with. So as we can see that the world is changing, all this stuff is coming fresh and new, and we must be able to change so we can survive for this for what's happening in this digital revolution. Why do we have to change? As Einstein said, because we can't solve today's problems with the same type of thinking with which we created them, which is part of the reason that Shumul was created, is to basically find ways to partner with people, to bridge the gap, to connect the different ecosystem partners, to find new solutions for the problems. In the country that we've been focusing on, in Sudan, for example, there's so many different problems in money and transactions and payments and networks and trust and so on and so forth. So we definitely have a lot that we need to do, but we believe that the only way that you can truly achieve change is if you can get the culture to change. So transformation is culture change, and as Peter Drucker says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. The reality is it is not going to be easy to make any type of change. You will have your strategy, you will have your plans, you will have your finances, but you will also have your challenges. You go through different phases of any transformation. People are going to have difficulties in accepting it. So they're going to go into denial mode, then they're going to panic. And then after that, they will move into the acceptance, and hopefully we'll all get into success. The only way you can actually, get ready for that and know that you're going to be having those challenges is really just to be brave and, keep plowing, keep moving forward. So that's pretty much all the content that I wanted to share for today. And thank you so much for listening and participating. And we'll leave some room for any questions or people that want to participate. But I don't see many that have joined, so we'll follow up with any questions that may come up later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. We are very happy to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you.